I lost my first wife when my daughter was 4, cancer. I don't like talking about that part because people immediately assume everything after that is either me being fragile or me being heartless. I was neither. I had a 4-year-old who didn't understand why her mom wasn't coming back. I had to keep going, so I did. 3 years later, I met my current wife. She had a daughter the same age as mine. Her ex-husband had died not long before we met, but they'd been divorced. So we were 2 single parents with kids who'd both lost a parent in different ways. I thought that meant they'd understand each other. That's probably where I effed up the first time. My daughter was excited from the start. She asked if she'd have a sister. She started calling her my sister before we were even married. I remember correcting her gently, saying, "Let's slow down," but she was 7 and lonely and wanted that bond. My stepdaughter did not. She was polite in front of us, but you could feel it. She didn't want this. She didn't want my daughter in her space. She didn't want me either, if I'm being honest. She wanted her parents back together. That was obvious even before she said it years later. We didn't force them to be close. I was very intentional about that. We did family dinners. We did outings. If we went somewhere fun, we invited both. If one said no, fine. I told myself we were being respectful by not shoving sisterhood down their throats. Looking back, I can see how not forcing it turned into not addressing it. There were small things. My daughter would knock on her door and get ignored, or she'd try to sit next to her on the couch, and my stepdaughter would get up and move without saying anything. Once at a birthday party when they were maybe 9, my daughter came home quiet, wouldn't say why. Later I found out my stepdaughter told some girls that they weren't actually sisters and she didn't want people thinking that. I told my wife about that one. She talked to her daughter. It was handled, apparently. I didn't push further. I told myself kids are territorial. They grow out of it. My daughter cried in her room that night, though. I remember standing outside the door, hearing it and thinking, give it time. That became my default response. Give it time. I didn't realize she was asking for protection. The baseline in our house for years was basically this. They coexisted, ate dinner at the same table, shared holidays, did not confide in each other. My daughter would still try sometimes, ask about school, offer to help with homework. She wanted closeness. It was painful to watch sometimes because you could see her reaching and getting nothing back. My wife would tell me her daughter was still grieving in her own way, that she needed space. I agreed. I didn't want to be the stepdad who barged in and demanded affection, so we stayed neutral, encouraging but neutral. Last year something changed. My stepdaughter approached my daughter first. That's important. She apologized, said she'd been angry for years. Said she wanted her parents back together and felt like being nice to my daughter meant betraying her dad. That's what she told us later. My daughter was over the moon. I haven't seen her that excited in a long time. She came to me smiling, talking fast, saying they'd talked for hours. I felt relieved, like maybe all those years of waiting it out had finally paid off. They started hanging out more, going into each other's rooms, talking late. I heard laughing through the walls sometimes. My daughter would mention things her stepsister told her about school, about friends. It felt normal. I let myself relax. Around February, SHT started going sideways. My daughter came home one day upset but trying to hide it. Said people at school were being weird. I asked what weird meant. She brushed it off. Teenagers do that thing where they don't want to look dramatic. A few days later, she came home crying. She finally told me people were saying she had a crush on one of her teachers, that she was trying to sleep with him, which is insane. She's 16. The teacher is in his 30s. I assumed some idiot kid made something up. I asked where it came from. She didn't know. I told her rumors burn out. I probably sounded dismissive. I didn't mean to. I genuinely believed it would die down. Kids latch onto something new every week. Then it didn't die down. It got worse. Apparently her stepsister's friend group was involved somehow. My daughter said they were looking at her in the hallway and laughing. The guy she actually had a crush on started avoiding her. She looked humiliated, like physically smaller. I asked again where it started. She said she thought it might have come from something she told her stepsister in confidence, about thinking the teacher was cute, not even serious, just stupid teenage talk. I didn't immediately jump to blaming my stepdaughter. That's where maybe I should have been sharper. I asked my wife to talk to her daughter. She did. My stepdaughter denied spreading anything, said maybe someone overheard. My daughter wanted me to confront her directly. I hesitated. I didn't want to accuse without proof. I told her we needed to be sure before blowing up the house over a rumor. She stared at me like I'd said something worse than that. It dragged on for weeks. My daughter started eating in her room, avoided dinner. Her grades dipped a little. She stopped mentioning her stepsister at all. Then one afternoon she came home shaking, not crying this time. Angry. She said her stepsister mocked her in front of her friends, said something like she actually thinks a teacher wants her. Then told the boy she liked about it. Apparently they all reacted like she was disgusting. I confronted my stepdaughter that night. She admitted to repeating things my daughter had told her, said she was joking, that people took it too far. I told her it wasn't a joke, that she'd humiliated her sister. She corrected me, said Step. That pissed me off. My wife got defensive, said teenagers say SHTTY things, that it didn't mean she wished real harm. I said harm was already done. But even then, I still thought we could fix it internally. Apologies, grounding, restricting phone access, consequences. We handled it like a family conflict. My daughter didn't see it that way. She started sleeping with her door locked. She wouldn't be in the same room alone with her stepsister. Once I walked into the kitchen and the tension was so thick it felt stupid to pretend everything was normal. Then my daughter told me something I didn't know before. That her stepsister told her she wished she was dead, said it in front of her friends. I felt my stomach drop when she told me that. I asked why she hadn't said that sooner. She shrugged and said she didn't think I'd believe her. That one hurt. I did believe her. I confronted my stepdaughter again. She said she didn't mean it. I remember snapping and saying, "You don't say that about family." She looked at me like I'd just insulted her. Things were tense but contained, ugly but contained, and then the teddy bear happened. I need to explain that before I go further. When my wife died, my daughter was 4. At the funeral, she wouldn't let go of this stupid little teddy bear someone gave her. It became the thing she clung to for months, wouldn't sleep without it, carried it around the house. After we got her mom's ashes, she asked if some could go inside the bear so her mom could still hug her. I didn't love the idea, but I agreed. We had a small compartment sewn into it. That bear has been in her room for 12 years. 2 weeks ago, she came downstairs holding it like it was a dead animal. The seam was ripped open, ashes spilled, the stuffing torn out. She wasn't crying. That scared me more than if she had been. She just said she did it. And I believed her immediately this time. I called my stepdaughter down. She denied it for about 30 seconds before admitting she grabbed it during an argument. Said she didn't know ashes were inside. Said she just wanted to scare her. My daughter made the sound and then she just walked past me and went upstairs. I stood there looking at both of them. My stepdaughter looked scared now, not defiant. My wife kept saying she didn't know what was inside it. Like that was the whole point. I told my stepdaughter to go to her room. She did. No argument. I followed my daughter upstairs. Her door was locked. I knocked. She didn't answer. I said her name. Nothing. I stood there for a minute trying to decide whether to push it. I didn't. I told myself she needed space. Later that night she came down with a trash bag. The bear was inside it, tied closed. She said, "I can't live here." I said we would fix it, that we'd have the bear repaired, that I'd make sure this never happened again. She looked at me like I was missing the point on purpose. She said it wasn't about the bear, it was about everything. The rumor, the mocking, the hallway SHT at school, the dinner table pretending, me telling her it would die down, me asking for proof before confronting, me saying families don't separate. She said I was more worried about keeping the house intact than keeping her safe. That stung because I immediately wanted to argue the wording. I told her I was trying to protect both of them, that I couldn't just pick one child and destroy the other, that it wasn't that simple. She said, "It is simple. She keeps hurting me and nothing actually changes." I told her she was grounded, that her phone was taken, that we were handling it. She asked me how long she was supposed to wait to feel okay in her own house. I didn't have a clean answer for that, so I defaulted. I said we're a family. We don't split up because things get hard. She said this wasn't hard. It was hostile. My wife came upstairs at some point. Things got louder. My wife said her daughter was grieving too, that she'd made mistakes but she wasn't evil. That my daughter wasn't innocent either. That part escalated fast. My daughter asked what the hell she'd done besides exist. I told everyone to calm down, which never works. At some point my daughter said she was calling her grandparents. I said no. I said this stays in the house. I didn't want outside commentary while we were trying to manage it. I didn't want my in-laws swooping in and framing it like we were monsters. She called them anyway. I told her she wasn't leaving, that she was 16. That you don't get to move out because you're angry. She said she wasn't angry. She said she was done. My in-laws showed up the next afternoon. I wasn't expecting them that fast. My father-in-law didn't come inside at first. He stood on the porch like he was picking up a dog from a shelter. My mother-in-law walked in and hugged my daughter, saw the trash bag, asked what happened. I didn't want to explain the ashes in detail. I said there'd been a fight, that we were working on it. My daughter said she tore open the bear with mom in it. The room went quiet. My mother-in-law looked at me, not my stepdaughter, not my wife, me, and I felt something ugly in my chest, defensive, like I was being blamed for something I didn't physically do. She asked what I was going to do about it. I said we were handling it internally. She said clearly it wasn't handled. My wife jumped in, said they were overstepping, that teenagers have conflict, that taking her out of the house wasn't the solution. My daughter said she couldn't sleep there. That she locked her door every night. That she felt watched, that she felt humiliated every time she walked past her stepsister. I didn't know about the watching part. That one caught me off guard. I asked what she meant. She said her stepsister would stand in the doorway sometimes and just stare at her without speaking. I turned to my stepdaughter. She denied it, said that was dramatic. Everything felt like sand slipping. my father-in-law finally came inside. He said if she wanted to come stay for a while, she could, emphasis on while. I said no, I didn't yell, but my tone wasn't calm either. I said this is her home. We don't run from problems. He said sometimes you remove a kid from the problem first. I told my daughter if she left, it would make things worse, that it would fracture everything permanently. She said it already was fractured. I asked her if she was really choosing to leave over this. She said I already chose. I didn't see it as choosing. I still don't fully see it that way. I saw two grieving kids who hurt each other and a house that needed stabilizing. But I also saw my daughter standing there holding a trash bag with ashes in it. I hesitated too long. My daughter picked up her bag. My mother-in-law took it from her gently. My father-in-law said he'd bring her back after things cooled down. I said that wasn't how parenting works. My daughter said, then start acting like one. That one landed, they left. The house immediately felt wrong, too quiet but also charged. My stepdaughter stayed in her room. My wife and I sat on the couch without talking for a while. She eventually said her daughter didn't mean to destroy the ashes, that she just grabbed something during a fight, that it escalated. I said I didn't care about intent anymore. I said damage is damage. Then she asked if I was really going to let my daughter manipulate us into sending her away. She said if my daughter left and stayed gone, it would signal that her daughter was disposable. I said no one was disposable. She asked if I'd divorce her over this. That felt like an ambush. I said that wasn't what was happening. She said families don't split up when things get hard. My own line thrown back at me. We went in circles for an hour, not screaming, just grinding. That night I went into my daughter's room. Empty bed, closet half full. The ripped bear sitting on her desk where she'd left it after pulling some ashes into a small container. I sat on study table and realized I didn't know when the house stopped feeling safe to her. That part bothers me. The next morning I called her. She didn't answer. She texted later saying she needed time. My in-laws haven't been friendly. My mother-in-law said she can't believe I minimized what happened at school, that my daughter told her I said rumors fade. I did say that. I didn't think it would spiral like it did. Apparently the school is involved now. The teacher was notified. There's an investigation about inappropriate conduct even though nothing happened. My daughter had to sit in an office explaining that she never tried to do anything, that it was just gossip. That's bigger than I thought. My stepdaughter has been suspended for a few days for the harassment part. She's furious, says I sided against her, says I embarrassed her. My wife says the school overreacted, says teenagers talk about teachers all the time. I keep thinking about the group chat incident from years ago, the birthday party comment, the way my daughter would try and get nothing back. All those small cuts I categorized as normal. Maybe they weren't normal. Maybe they were warnings. I didn't want to see two broken kids. I wanted to see resilience. So I labeled everything as growing pains. Now my daughter is sleeping in her childhood bedroom at her grandparents' house, the same room she used to stay in after her mom died when I was too overwhelmed to function some weekends. I remember dropping her off and feeling like I failed because I needed help. That same feeling is back, but now it's mixed with anger. At my in-laws for stepping in, at my wife for defending her daughter blindly, at myself for not drawing a harder line sooner. I don't think I chose my wife over my daughter, but I did choose to preserve the structure over reacting decisively, and that might be the same thing to her. She's supposed to come by this weekend to pick up more clothes. I don't know if she's staying there long-term or if this is temporary. My wife says if she doesn't come back soon, lawyers might get involved because technically she's still a minor under my roof. That makes it sound like a custody dispute instead of a family problem. I never wanted this to turn into sides. But it already has, and I'm sitting here wondering if holding the house together actually tore it apart. Follow-up. I thought she'd cool off. I genuinely believed a few days at her grandparents' house and she'd miss her room, her bed, normal routine. I kept telling myself she just needed space and then she'd come back and we'd figure out the rest. She didn't. She came by last week to get more clothes. My wife and stepdaughter stayed in the kitchen when she walked in. No hello, no eye contact. I noticed it and didn't correct it fast enough. I told myself not to create a scene. That was my mistake right there. She went straight upstairs. I followed her. I asked her if she'd thought about coming back home. I said it calmly. I didn't corner her. I just stood in the doorway while she folded stuff into a bag. She didn't answer. I asked why she was doing this to me. That came out wrong the second I said it. I meant why was she making it permanent, but it sounded selfish, even to me. I told her stepsister wouldn't pull anything like that again. I said I'd make damn sure of it. I told her I'd take care of her, that I should have handled it harder from the start. She just kept packing. I said something like, you can't just walk away from your family. And she zipped the bag and walked past me. That silence is worse than if she'd screamed at me. After she left, my wife said I was being manipulated, that my daughter was punishing us. She pushed harder this time, said if my daughter wasn't answering my calls consistently, I needed to assert parental authority, that her staying there indefinitely made us look unstable. I didn't want to escalate it. But I let myself get talked into a welfare check. I told myself it was about safety, making sure she was actually okay. Police showed up at my in-laws' house. My daughter texted me after, "Are you serious?" That's all she wrote. My in-laws called me furious, said I embarrassed her, said I was trying to intimidate her back home. That wasn't my intention. That night I told my wife I was scared of losing my marriage. I said I felt like everything was splitting down the middle. She said if I chose my daughter over what's fair, I'd be teaching her daughter she doesn't matter. I said my daughter hasn't mattered enough in this house. That didn't go well. I tried to explain that protecting structure isn't the same as protecting a kid. That I see now I let things slide because I didn't want another fracture after losing my first wife. I admitted I should have stepped in harder years ago, that I confused neutrality with good parenting. She said I was twisting everything. 2 days later, she packed a bag too, took her daughter and went to stay with her parents. She said, "I won't stay where my kid is treated like an evil monster." So now my daughter won't come home. My wife left. My stepdaughter never liked me much to begin with. My in-laws won't speak to me without anger in their voice. And I'm sitting in a house I was so determined to hold together, alone. I can see the pattern now. I kept trying to preserve the unit instead of protecting the person who was bleeding inside it. I thought I was being steady. I might have just been stubborn. What the F do I do now? Follow up. I've done a lot of stupid SHT in the last couple weeks, and I'm starting to understand that even when I think I'm trying to fix something, I'm usually just trying to get control back because I can't handle feeling like I'm being left. That's the honest version. The version I've been telling myself is that I'm her dad and I'm supposed to keep her safe, keep her on track, and keep the whole thing from spiraling into some permanent family break. But my behavior hasn't looked like safety. It looked like pressure. After the police welfare check, my daughter didn't block me, but she went colder, shorter replies. If I asked a question, she'd answer the bare minimum or not at all. My in-laws stopped answering me. They'd respond through texts that felt like they were written by a lawyer even when they were not. Then my wife left, like I said, took her daughter and went to her parents. My stepdaughter didn't say goodbye to me, didn't look at me. She has never liked me, and the last few years I convinced myself that was teenage attitude and grief and all that. Seeing her walk out of the house like she couldn't wait to get away from me made it pretty damn clear she didn't see me as family. My wife has turned this into a mission. She's obsessed with the idea that her daughter is being cast out and that she has to fix the optics and the reality at the same time. She talks like everything is a contest between children, like one of them has to win the house. And here's the part that makes me feel like I'm losing my mind. The second I finally stopped trying to play neutral and actually defended my daughter out loud, my wife acted like I'd stabbed her. All it took was once. One time I said, "No, that was effed up and you're not excusing it." And suddenly I'm the enemy. I told myself my wife leaving would make things simpler. I hate admitting that, but I did. I thought, okay, if my daughter feels unsafe because of them and they're gone, then she'll come back. It'll be me and her. We can reset. So I texted her something along those lines. Not word for word, but basically they're not here right now. It's quiet. You can come home. We can talk. She didn't respond for almost a full day. Then she sent the following: "I'm not coming back just because she left." That's it. She came by again after I begged my mother-in-law. This time I made sure the house was neutral. I told my wife not to come by and she didn't, but she left her daughter with her parents anyway, so it wasn't even a question. My daughter walked in with my father-in-law. They didn't come in like guests. It was like a pickup. My daughter didn't greet me. I greeted her. She nodded and walked straight in. I told myself I was going to be calm. I told myself I wasn't going to guilt her. I told myself I wasn't going to make it about me. I lasted maybe 30 seconds. I asked if she had thought about coming back. She stayed silent. I asked if she planned to stay there permanently. Nothing. I said, "You're really not going to say anything?" She looked at me like she was about to say something, but stayed silent again. I said, "Do you realize what you're doing to me?" And I knew immediately I'd done it again. Made it about me, put the weight on her shoulders. She didn't respond. I tried a different angle. I told her I'd handle it differently now. I told her there wouldn't be any more excuses. I told her her stepsister would not repeat anything, and that if she did, I'd be the one stepping in, not waiting for it to work itself out. My daughter didn't react, so then I did something I regretted the second it left my mouth. I said something about her mum. I didn't say it like a weapon in my head. I said it like, I don't know, like it was a fact I could use to anchor her. Like, your mum would want you home. Your mum would want us to stick together. Your mum would be effing devastated to see you walk out on me. I'm cringing typing that, because even if I didn't intend it as manipulation, it is. I used her dead mother to try to win. My daughter's face changed. Not dramatic, just shut down in a different way. She said, very quiet, "Don't." That was the first word she said to me in that room. I said I didn't mean it like that. I said I was scared. I said I didn't know what else to do. She said, "Stop making mum about you." That hit hard because she's right, and also because it's exactly what I did for years without noticing. I was the adult survivor of that loss, so I treated it like my thing to manage. Her grief got folded into my decisions, my choices, my timelines, my keeping it together. She stood up and walked past me, again, like she had an exit map. My father-in-law didn't say anything. My daughter left. The car pulled away. I stood there in my own driveway and felt stupid. I didn't even get a blow-up, which is what some part of me expects when things are serious. I got a quiet withdrawal, which is worse because you can't argue with it. You can't reason it back. That's when I started doing the other control SHT. Money first. I didn't think of it as punishment. I thought of it as logistics. If she's living there, why am I paying like she's living here? Phone bill, extracurricular fees, some of the school stuff, rides, all of it. I texted my mother-in-law and said we should talk about splitting expenses if this is a long-term arrangement. She replied, "We aren't negotiating your child like a lease." I got angry. I wrote back something like, "You're not her parent." That was a mistake because my father-in-law called me and said, "You're acting like you want your authority more than you want your daughter." I hung up on him. I'm not proud of that. I hung up because he was right and I hated hearing it from him. Then I went after the school angle. I told myself I was protecting her from the rumor fallout. I told myself a fresh start would help. Different environment, less gossip, less humiliation. Also, if she transferred districts, she'd have to come back to my address. I didn't say that part out loud, but it was sitting there in my head like a solution. I called the school office and asked what a transfer would look like. They asked why. I said bullying and harassment, which is true. Then they asked where she's currently living. I hesitated. That's how you know you're doing something shady. You hesitate on a basic question. I said she's with her grandparents temporarily. The woman on the phone got careful. Told me because of the ongoing situation and investigation, I should coordinate through proper channels. She didn't say don't do this, but it felt like she was telling me not to use them as a tool. I still emailed the counselor. I regret it. I basically asked if transferring her could be supported due to the environment. My daughter found out. I don't know exactly how, but she did. She texted me, "Don't move my school. Stop." I wrote back that I was trying to protect her. She wrote, "You're trying to trap me." That one made me put my phone down because it was too accurate. Then I made it worse in a different way. I went to my in-laws' house unannounced. Not once, multiple times. The first time, my father-in-law stepped outside and closed the door behind him like I was a salesman. I asked to see my daughter. He said she didn't want to talk. I said I didn't drive there to be told what my kid wants by him. He said, "Then maybe you should have listened when she told you." I didn't leave. I stood there. I kept talking. I kept trying to reason. I said I needed to see her face to face because texting is bullshit and misunderstandings happen. He said, "You don't get to demand access because you feel anxious." That pissed me off enough that I raised my voice. Not screaming, but sharper. He told me if I didn't leave, he'd call the police for trespassing. So I left, and then I came back 2 days later. Same result. My daughter didn't come out. That should have told me everything. Instead, it made me feel replaced. Like they were the safe parents now and I was the unstable one. That's when the public thing happened. There was a family gathering on my late wife's side. Not a party, more like one of those obligatory dinners where people pretend they're catching up, but they're really just checking if you're failing. My in-laws were there. My daughter was not. Someone asked where she was. My mother-in-law said, "She's with us." And I snapped in front of people, not like a full tantrum, but enough that heads turned. I said, "She's with you because you took her." My mother-in-law said, "She's with us because she didn't feel safe." I said that's dramatic, and then I watched her face go hard, and I knew I'd just destroyed any chance of a cooperative relationship with them. People started chiming in. My wife's family isn't there, obviously, but my late wife's relatives were. They started asking what happened. I tried to summarize. It came out like teenage conflict again, even though I know better now. And the second I minimized it, I saw the judgment, not just towards my stepdaughter, towards me. My mother-in-law said loudly, "He called the police to check on her." I didn't even know she was going to say that in front of everyone. I felt humiliated. I turned it into anger because that's what I do. I said she had no right, that she was undermining me, that she was poisoning my child. My father-in-law told me to shut up. My aunt, my late wife's sister, pulled me aside and said, "You sound like you care more about being obeyed than being trusted." So now I've managed to look like a controlling arsehole in front of the same people who watched me bury my wife. Good job. After that, I told myself I needed to stop. I actually meant it, not in an "I'll stop being mean" way, but in a "I'm going to lose her permanently if I keep pulling strings" way. Because that's what I've been doing. Strings, school, money, surprise visits, public pressure, using her mom's memory. All of it is me trying to force the outcome I want. And it's not working. Here's the part I didn't see coming. My wife filed something. Not emergency custody of my daughter, but she went to a lawyer and started paperwork that drags me into court anyway. She's trying to protect her position and her daughter's position. She thinks if she moves fast, she can frame the story first. She told me she was documenting parental alienation by my in-laws. She said we need to establish a record. I told her absolutely not. I told her I'm not going nuclear. I told her court is where things go to die. I told her if we turn my daughter into a legal battlefield, she will never forgive me. My wife said my daughter already hates me, so what does it matter? That's when I realized something really ugly. My wife would rather win against my in-laws than repair anything with my daughter. She's not thinking about my daughter as a person. She's thinking about her as a threat to her kid. I tried to talk my wife down. I said her daughter did something unforgivable, not a mistake, not a fight, unforgivable. I said my priority is my child. I said if she can't accept that, I don't know what we're doing. She told me I was choosing my daughter over her daughter. I said, yes, I'm her father. I'm supposed to. She called me cold and walked out of the conversation. So now I've got no wife in the house, no stepkid, no daughter, and a paper trail starting that I didn't even initiate. I'm not sleeping. I keep hearing my daughter do in my head when I bring up her mum. That was the moment I saw myself from the outside, and it was effing gross. I want to fix it. But I also keep catching myself making plans that are really just control in disguise. Like maybe if I cut her phone off, she'll have to talk. Maybe if I show up again, she'll crack. Maybe if I push for the school transfer, she'll have to come home. And then I imagine her face when she texted stop, and I realize I'm about to shove her further away just because I can't tolerate waiting. So I'm trying something that feels wrong to me, doing nothing. Not nothing as in not caring. Nothing as in not pushing, not pulling, not forcing. I drafted a message to her last night and deleted it 5 times. The version I want to send is a whole explanation. A whole essay about how sorry I am, how scared I am, how I didn't see it, how I'll do better, and how the house is different now. But the house is different now is also bullshit because my wife could come back at any time and expect things to snap back into place. And my daughter knows that. She's not stupid. She's not going to return to a situation that can revert overnight. So I wrote something shorter. No guilt, no demands, no talk about her mum, no family, no deadlines, just I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I used control when I felt powerless. You don't have to come back until you feel safe. I want to talk when you're ready. I haven't sent it yet because I'm scared she won't answer. And my brain keeps trying to convince me that if she won't answer, I should escalate again. And that's the part that makes me think I've been a worse parent than I wanted to admit. If my instinct is to tighten my grip every time she pulls away, then yeah, I've been sending the message that her comfort matters less than my control. I don't want to lose her permanently. I can survive a divorce. I can survive my in-laws hating me. I don't know if I can survive my kid deciding I'm not safe. So what do I do now? Do I send the message and shut the hell up after, even if it eats me alive? Do I fight my wife's filing and risk turning this into a legal war anyway? Do I let my daughter decide without me hovering, even if she chooses, not coming back as her decision? I keep thinking I'm choosing between being a father and being a doormat. Maybe I'm finally learning that the choice is actually between being a father and being a controller.